moving forward in spite of every single roadblock placed on our country by the PNC. They were not content with leaving us only with a destroyed economy. But every occasion we tried to change things, they responded through non-cooperation and even violence. And you know of the many politically inspired violence, episodes of violence that we had to face down, overcome, and yet kept this country going. And we did it because we are firm in our conviction and we know where we are going. But let us face the reality. The last elections, we lost the parliament by 1 seat. So what happened? How could a party that transformed this country, made so much progress, had so many achievements in its name, lose the parliament by 1 seat? What happened? What happened here on the Essequibo Coast that led to a reduced number of votes? After the elections, we sought to find out, and we found several things. We found, one, some people did not take the time to register. They were very confident that we'd win the elections, so they didn't get registered. If you're not registered, you can't vote. Secondly, we found that a lot of people had moved out of this region. They had gone to other regions and they had not taken a transfer. So on election day, they could not come back to Essequibo to vote, and they didn't vote where they were. We found that some people in the Pomeroon and other areas had gone into the mining areas. And we found also that some people said they had to cut rice in that season, they can't turn out, and some others were disillusioned because they blame us for some problem at the region or at the NDC level. Now we know what the problems are. So this time around we will fix every one of those so that whenever the elections come, we're not going to be faced with a similar situation. That every one of these problems we are going to go, and we need your help to go to every home in Essequibo Coast and to ensure that every person who is eligible to vote is on that list, and we'll make it our duty. The men and the women of this community who love the party will make it their duty to go out there and even fetch them and encourage them to get out there. And we make a list of everyone who has moved and go to the other region where they are and ensure that they get on the list too. Because much is at stake. We cannot be caught again because of lack of our own preparedness, lose the majority. But losing the majority in Parliament might not be all a bad thing. Let me tell you why, and you would want to know why I say losing the majority might not be so bad. Because it has given us a glimpse of how this opposition will behave if it gets into government. It has exposed their true nature. And so today we see in the Parliament, the smallest party controls the Speaker. APNU gets a Deputy Speaker, and the biggest party in Parliament doesn't have any say in the leadership of the Parliament. That's one. The same people who talk about democracy and dictatorship under the PPP and everything else, the resurrected people from the past, look how they behave when they only had a 1-seat majority combined, not by themselves, but combined. Secondly, you have seen the things that they're against. So they voted against $500 million for Amerindian development. This is to change the lives of indigenous people, to ensure that in the hinterland where they live, that we can generate more jobs for them, that we can ensure that they get access to things that people on the coast take for granted. But what happened? The opposition voted against it. So we know what they're against. They're against Amerindian development. They voted against helping the sugar industry because they think that's PPP supporters. So they don't believe in supporting the sugar industry because it's going through a bad patch. But sugar, when it was producing, doing well, was helping the whole economy and the whole country from Linden all the way to Crabwood Creek. But they voted against sugar. In this budget, $500 million of subsidies to the rice farmers, they voted against that too. So if they're against Amerindians, they're against the sugar industry, they're against helping rice farmers, they voted against the one laptop per family. So they're against giving computers to the poorest families in this country. They voted against money laundering bill. Now we are trying to improve the country to make it more transparent so that drug dealers don't have free passage for their money through the country. They accuse us of being in bed with drug dealers. When we want to pass a tough law against drug dealers, they voted against it. They voted against the Firearms Amendment Act, and then they say we're not doing enough to fight crime. They voted against a hotel that will create hundreds, in fact 500 jobs for young people in this country, and they voted against it. They voted against the airport project that will create a hub for Guyana, a hub that will generate cheaper fares, more flights, lower freight so we can export our goods, more tourism to this country which will generate jobs, but they voted against it. They voted against a hospital where we will get a soft loan from India, where surgery, heart surgery, will be done for $4,000 US. People can have their joints replaced just here in Guyana, where they don't have to travel abroad and pay $30,000. But they voted against that too. Comrades, they voted against the hydropower, which could bring cheaper power to our businesses that will generate more jobs for our young people, but also could reduce the cost of living in this country. And not 1 cent of debt will we incur from the hydropower, and the price that we'll buy power at is half of what we're generating power at now. And that consumers over the 20 years of the life of the project will save at a minimum 120 billion Guyana dollars. And we'll save another 140 billion from the subsidies we give. When we add the two, taxpayers will save over 1.1 billion US, more than the cost of the hydro. The airport is all done from concessional financing, but they voted against that. You can't run a country by only being against things. You're against the health sector, you're against even education. Irfan mentioned that when we tried to decentralize education, they were opposed to that. They didn't want a university campus to go to Berbice. They didn't want a technical institute here. All we hear about the opposition is what they're against. What do they stand for? What do they stand for? Nothing. And you cannot run a country by being against things. You have to define your plan for the future. You have to say what are the sectors that will create the wealth for Guyana, so that every young person could have a job, so that people can have a growing income, so that their lives could get better. We have defined that program over and over and over again. Tonight, if I had the time, I can tell you the details, and it will take 2 hours of every single project, program, policy that we have in every sector to manage this country. They can't even mention one policy. They can't. You can't run countries like that. And so, comrades, we need to understand what is at stake here. We can come here and celebrate 21 years of achievements, but if we don't defend it, if we ourselves don't become soldiers of the cause, then people are going to snatch this away from us. The Kaichou News and the others are going to constantly misrepresent us. I know the Kaichou News pathologically hates the government, but Glenn Lal hates me. You know why? I recently found out, he said he had a girlfriend at Eccles. He used to pay $75,000 to rent a house for her, and I stole his girlfriend. But I don't know whether it's true or not, but he hates me every day. 2 years I've left office, and not a single day he doesn't have a picture of me in his paper, because vindictiveness, and he hates what we stand for. But comrades, this is not about girlfriend-boyfriend story. This is about people's lives. It's about your lives. It's about your future. It's about what you want for these kids when they grow up. We know what we passed through. We know what we had to live through. We had to live through an era of repression where kids who are bright young people from my age couldn't dream of a future in this land. Today, people are coming back from abroad, remigrating back here because of the changes that we have made in this country. Because when we see problems, we fix them. Essequibo Coast, here, banks, fire station, every evidence, new ferries and stuff. But look what we did with the kids. When we had a shortage, 150 doctors to run the entire country when we got into office, guess what? We didn't hold our heads and say, oh, let's give up. We sent 700 other students abroad to train in medicine. Today, you're seeing evidence of them coming back. 300 of them came back this year alone to serve you. That is what our government is about. When we found that people couldn't get surgery for cataract, that they were doing 200 cases a year in the Georgetown Hospital, and we had a backlog of 25,000 old people who had cataract. What we did, we sent people abroad working with the Cuban government, and we opened the hospital at Port Moran to do this. This is how we work. We see a problem among our people, we fight to change them. And comrades, tonight we're here mainly to listen to our president. So I'm not going to speak for long, but I want to ask you to understand that what we are faced with. We're faced with an opposition that wants to do one thing, get back into power. And you see, they're eyeing all the changes. Today they can talk about changes because of where we have brought the country. They want to get their hands, we have changed this land. You know, when we got into office, they didn't have money in the central bank. Today, we are over 800 million US dollars sitting in the central bank there. Inflation was triple digit, it's single digit. We've cut the budget deficit and we've expanded the welfare spending on people. Irfan mentioned to you the per capita spending in this region. But it's not only this region, it's everywhere in this country. We have done this with a PNC debt holding our hands. And I keep saying to people at every one of these meetings I go to, if we didn't have to pay back the 2.1 billion US dollars of debt that the PNC left us while over the last 20 years, this would have been a developed country because we could have invested it back here on our people. But the shameless Greenidge, who when he took office, the debt was 600 million US dollars. By the time Greenidge left office, it became 2.1 billion dollars. We had to, when we got into office, 94% of every dollar we collected in taxes went only to pay debts and 20% to pay wages. And we banded our bellies, and we started to change this country because we were led by the right person and we had the right policies. And today you see the success of those policies. So let no one diminish your party. Let no one diminish your achievements. If you allow them to do that, they will demean you as a person. So when you walk the streets of Guyana, you should walk proudly and say, my party, the People's Progressive Party, has changed this country, and we are proud of it. And learn, read enough, so that when they spread the lies about us, every day about corruption and all sorts of things, every day, that's the only thing they can talk about because they don't have any policies. They're against things, but they're not for things. They can only talk about corruption. You arm yourselves with the facts so that when you walk the road and they say that, you can say, that's a lie because I know the truth. So, and we require this from you. So comrades, we have a glorious future. If we stay in power, this country is going to continue to grow from strength to strength. Thank you very much.